We are looking at our spiral from week 31. Now, on each day, we are going to answer the individual questions. Make sure that you know once you click on your answer, it will be marked either correct or incorrect. For Monday, the equations represent the ratios of rainy to sunny days in several cities, with X rainy days and Y sunny days. Sort the equations into the appropriate bins to show which cities have at least 8 rainy days in a 4-week period. We are provided with 6 equations: y equals 3x, y equals 2x, y equals 5x, y equals 6x, y equals 4x, and y equals x. We have to separate the equations into 2 separate bins, the one saying fewer than 8 rainy days, and then we have our one that says at least 8 rainy days. So what this simply means, fewer than 8 rainy days would be 7 or less, and then at least would then mean 8 or more. Now, to go ahead and take a moment, think about how you're going to answer these questions. Now, to answer our questions, we have to understand that if there is to be at least 8 rainy days, then we know that when we substitute in the 8 for x, we have to understand that, for example, 3 times x or 3 times 8 would get you 24, so then that means there would be 24 sunny days because y is the amount of sunny days. So if we have at least 8, then that means majority of our days will be sunny. But if I look at the next equation, y equals 2x, I see that it's 16. So meaning that y would be half the amount. So in this case, we can make the prediction that with y equals 3x, there's a possibility of having fewer than 8 rainy days because majority of the days would be significantly higher than the 8 days. So we can substitute other numbers besides 8. We can also substitute in 9, but we'll see the big difference. So your answers for fewer than 8 days would end up being y equals 3x, y equals 5x, y equals 6x, and y equals 4x. Because of the fact that y, the amount of sunny days, will be so significantly higher than the amount of the 8 rainy days that we need. But over here, with at least, we know that y equals 2x would work because of the fact that it would be evenly split. So it would be half and half. Half would be sunny, half would be rainy. And then if you use the equation y equals x, they're exactly the same amount. So it'd be the exact same as sunny days as it would be for rainy days. Now for Tuesday, we have Emily, who earned $4,410 working 3 months during her internship. Interns work 21 days each month. Find the unit rate of dollars Emily earned per day. So let's make sure that we are paying attention to the fact that we're looking at per day. Go ahead and take a moment to answer your question. All right, so let's see how we would answer this. So in this case, we know she has earned $4,410. She has worked for 3 months, and each month is 21 days. So for 3 months, there are a total of 3 times the 21 days, which would make it 63 days. because there are 21 days in 1 month. So now, once we get the total days that she's worked for the 3 months, we then would divide that. So we take the 4,410 and divide by the 63, and we end up with $70 per day. Now for Wednesday. A chef has several recipes to use different amounts of milk. The table shows the number of batches he had planned to make. He has time only to make 2 recipes, but wants to use as much milk as possible. Which 2 recipes should he make? Explain and find the total amount of milk he will use. So over on the right-hand side, we have a data table with the number of recipes, there are 4, and the amount of batches that they need to make, and then the cups of milk per batch. So in this case, the information for recipe 1 would be for 1 batch, 1/3 milk. Recipe 2, we have 1/2 batch and using 1.5 cups of milk. Recipe 3, we have 1 1/2 batches, and you'll use 1/4 or 1/4 cups of milk. And recipe 4, you have 0.25 batches, and that would be using 2 cups of milk. Now go ahead and take a moment to answer your question and make sure you read through all the explanations. Now, to determine our answer, we would have to take the number of batches and we would multiply it to the cups of milk per batch. So for recipe 1, we would multiply 1 times 1/3. And we end up with 1/3 cup for every potential recipe that they would make. So we would create an equation of 1/3 or 0.3 cups, and that's for the total amount of milk that he would end up finding. But it's definitely, we don't know if it's the greatest. So the next one, we go 1/2 times 1.5, and we end up with 0.75. And that would be multiplying the amount of cups. Eventually you'll have to have for more of the batches. Now for recipe 3, we see it's 1 1/2, and we multiply that by the 1/4, and this ends up as 0.375. And finally for recipe 4, we have 0.25, and we times that by 2, and that gives us 0.5 cups. So in the end, the batches that have the majority of recipes, because it's asking which 2 recipes should he make that has the higher value, that would be the second recipe and the last recipe, recipe number 4. So the question simply is asking which 2 recipes should he make, recipe 2 and recipe 4, and then find the total amount of milk he will use. So we add those 2 recipes together. So the 0.5 cups plus the 0.75 cups, and that would give us 1.25 cups. Because the main purpose is to know that he wants to use as much as the milk as possible, and that would give us the majority of the amount of milk that we could use.
Now for Thursday, the table shows the amount of one day's work given to several teams of employees at a mowing company. Each team evenly distributes its work among its members. Every employee is paid $10 per 1/8 acre mowed. Select all the teams whose members each made at least $80 for the day. So in our table to the right-hand side, we will see Team 1 has 8 employees and the amount to be mowed was 7 acres. Team 2, 2 employees, mowing 2 3/4. Team 3, 1 employee, mowing 1 1/8 acres. And Team 4, mowing 4 1/2. So the way we would figure out each problem is first to determine how much it would cost for the 1/8 acre that they would mow. So for Team 1, if they mowed 7 acres and you want to know how many eighths, we would divide it. So we just go 7 divided by 1/8 and it'd be 56. That is the total amount of 1/8 that they would have mowed, and then we could times it by $10. Now, once we times it by $10, that's $560. And again, there are 8 employees, so we divide it, and $560 divided by 8 would give us $70. So automatically we know that Team 1 cannot be one of the teams selected because it says it would have to be each member would make at least $80, and that is not going to meet the standard because each member is only making 70. So for Team 1, they are not going to be selected. Now for Team 2, we would do the same thing. We would take the 2 3/4, which is the 2.75, and we're going to divide that by 1/8. And we end up with 22. Then we multiply that by 10, and that's $220. Divide it by 2 employees, and we end up with 110. So that's saying that the 2 employees, each of them would make $110. Well, that's at least $80. So Team 2 would definitely be one of the teams. So we would select Team 2 for sure. And we're going to do the same thing with Team 3. Now for Team 3, we take the 1 1/8, so 1.125, and we divide that by the 1/8, and we end up with 9. Then we multiply that by the $10, and it turns out they make 90. So since there's only one team member, they would automatically make $90, which is at least 80, so Team 3 would also fit into the category. And then finally for Team 4, we would do the 4 1/2, which is 4.5, and we divide that by the 1/8, and that gets us 36. 36 times 10, $360. We divide it by 4, and they would each get 90. So Team 4 would also work. So again, this team not against Team 1 because they only received $70 each. They would have to at least receive 80.